Bonjour. Yes, on vous entend.
Un, deux. Un, deux, si. Ah, test, micro.
Ouais, moi je t'entends bien.
C'est qui parle de l'autre côté?
Florian, pardon, c'est Florian. Je me suis connecté sur mon PC depuis la
Ok,
régie et
super
je
Florian,
t'entends bien.
merci. C'est bon.
So good morning, everyone. Everybody arrived here, so we're gonna start. So first of all, I want to say welcome to you all, and particularly to thank the jury for coming today. Sorry, I have to switch it on. Many thanks to you, for the people here. Thank you for coming to us, and for the people online. I hope you hear me correctly. So thank you for your support and for being there. Thank you. We expect a lot of feedbacks from you. The students really appreciate the one you gave them last time. So thank you for that. Do not hesitate also to ask all the questions you need during just after the presentations. So we expect you to complete the evaluation file. This time we also sent an Excel sheet, so just to avoid the problems you may have faced last time, and sorry again for that, with connections or whatever, with the file online. I would ask you, if you don't mind, to keep presenting yourself when you ask questions, to help the students see who you are and know yes, your functions and where you work, and if you can raise hands either on live, in real life, or online. Thanks for that. If you have any questions, I can follow the questions you have online as well. I hope you are all fine, and we are really happy to welcome you. So today, we're going to have a presentation of the 6 projects you already saw. For the one who join us for this presentation, just a reminder. So you will see 6 teams of 9 to 12 students organized as studios. They have to work for 4 months on the conception and pre-production phase of the development of a whole game. So you're gonna see the presentation of the 6 projects of 6 different games. It's not the same order than last time, and we have one project to change its name. You're gonna see that along the day. As I said, 4 months to do this conception and the pre-production phase, or part of it. So we are at the 3rd month after the start of the project, who started mid-October. So you will see the progress they've made since last time. And in 1 month, you're gonna have the final presentation. Here is a view of the P17 cohort, because you will see them masked as usual. So it's nice to see them with a smile on their face. So let's go. I won't take more of this time, and let's welcome the first group along the rift.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the second presentation of Along the Rift. So first of all, I would like to introduce you the team. So we have Julia and Paul as game designers, Simon and Thomas as programmers, Doryan, Rebecca and Maximiliano as game artists, Minna as UX and UI designer, Clara as UX and UI designer, Martin as sound designer and composer, and myself as a producer. And now it's time to dive into the rift with Maya, our main character.
Maya!
Maya! Are you okay, sweetie?
Maya! Can you get up?
Maya, say something.
I'm fine, don't worry.
So, Maya and her parents are hiking in the mountains when suddenly she falls into a deep rift. She is now alone, trying to find a way out with the distant help of her parents. You embody this 10-year-old kid and your journey begins. So, it's a narrative adventure game which lasts 3 to 4 hours on PC and consoles. Along the Rift is an immersive and introspective story, one that will portray a coming of age through the eyes of a young girl, and we want that game experience as accessible as possible to allow a wide audience to plunge into complex family bonds through the metaphor of a little girl falling into a rift.
For their summer vacation, Maya and her dad, Nathan and Aaron, had to go to France in the Alps. Aaron is not very enthusiastic about being here and is always complaining. This creates little discords between the couple, and Maya is getting tired of it. Along the rift takes place when the family is hiking, having a good time, until one more disagreement begins between Nathan and Aaron. And this is the moment Maya will fall in the rift. Now I'm gonna present you Maya to help you understand how she feels about all of this situation. So Maya is 10 years old. She was adopted at the age of 2 by Aaron and Nathan. She is very close to them and wants to make them proud. The thing is, like all couples, they sometimes argue. And Maya is very empathetic, so when it's happened, she tries to calm it down to protect all of her family. The rift is a way for her to escape reality thanks to her imagination and rebalance things by focusing on herself rather than her parents. It is also a way for her to face her most frightening fears and deal with her lack of self-confidence. So, here is how Maya looks like in the game. As a player, you will embody her and thanks to a first-person view and help her to progress in her journey. Here you can see the entire game timeline. It is divided in 3 acts, completed with an intro and an epilogue, taking place outside of the rift. This act showcases the evolution of Maya during her adventure. She starts as a very frightened young girl, but she will to learn manage her fears, becoming more and more independent and brave before joining her parents again.
Since our main character is a very young teenager, she is living through a period of changes, of transition. The game is about a metaphorical view of this transition. We chose to install a stark contrast between the outside of the rift, where the parents are, to the inside of the rift, which represents Maya's inner mind. We wanted from the very beginning to put the emphasis on Maya's perception of the world. We do not show an objective reality, but Maya's very unique vision of it. Here are some of the concept art made at the very beginning of the project. From the moment Maya is in the rift, the atmosphere, the spaces and the environments start looking both distorted and unrealistic. Maya is amplifying her reality and the relationship between her parents, their small quarrels, their stress. The colors and the sound design of our different areas are very different from one another. Some areas appear unrealistically huge, tall, showcase a variety of threatening shapes. Some areas feel incredibly small and claustrophobic. And finally, some are comforting and very magical looking. all these characteristics are directly linked to the feelings that our character is experiencing and help the player to understand, to feel Maya's psyche throughout the game. When Maya is stressed out, she encounters a strange and worrying silhouette. It embodies her fears, and especially her fear of the dark and of loneliness. This silhouette is a recurring fictional character created by Maya that she can see in the actual environment when she panics. Some other elements are associated with it, with those tense moments. The pacing of her walk changes, her vision gets altered, and the music and the sounds become more and more menacing. To give the player a deeper overview of Maya's mind and psychology, some thoughts in text, that we call thought bubbles, can appear in the environment. These thought bubbles are constituted of small words that Maya is thinking about. Sometimes, the bubbles appear like an echo of the parents' discussion, as she is repeating over and over again and deforming bits of the conversation, imagining the worst with the very small fragments that she is able to hear. Sometimes, it appears to show her where to go next when she starts to gaze around. And sometimes, like in this GIF for instance, the thought bubble represents very specific fears, blocking for a time of progression.
So our main references being games such as Firewatch and Life is Strange, we decided to go for a semi-realistic art direction. Therefore, we are relying on the use of volumetric fog as well as a strong emphasis on lighting, as seen in the video above as an example. The semi-realistic art direction means we also use flashy saturated colors and to add a unique effect within the game. The procedural filter was created on Substance Designer that provides a brushstroke and grunge effect that was later on applied through texturing on every props produced for the game.
So, all of this is great, but while we are talking, Maya is still stuck in the rift. She took her time to discovering it, and this is beautiful, although a bit worrying. Anyway, I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to spend her life here. So, how can we help her, and how you, the player, can help her? Let's talk about the gameplay now.
So, how do we play along the rifts? You will embody Maya as a first-person view. Controls are thought to be minimalistic and easy to learn. So when playing with a gamepad, you will only need the 2 joysticks for playing the entire game. The left stick is mainly used for movements, and the right stick is used for the camera. After some playtests, we realized using buttons for certain actions was more intuitive, so we decided to add additional inputs to make the game easier and more intuitive to play. Navigating through the rifts is mainly done by walking, which will be paced depending on the mental state of Maya. For example, in stressful situations, Maya will move faster and be out of breath, and she might see the silhouette more frequently.
At some places in the rift, Maya will encounter different situations like obstacles or gaps, and in those cases, she will jump automatically above them when reaching them. Also, some surfaces can be climbed, and just like for the jump, Maya just has to reach these surfaces to start climbing, and the player can then use the left stick to move along the wall. And while climbing, Maya is still able to look around her, but the camera will automatically refocus on the wall if she tries, for example, to look too far behind her.
But one of the most important things is to keep a link with the parents and talk to them. Dialogues in Along the Rift are one of the most important features of the game. They define the characters, and especially the relationship. They define the character, and especially the relationship regarding the complexity of family links. They're also here to maintain the whole link between Maya and her dad, and our goal is to make them as fluid and organic as possible. By the way, Maya's self-presentation is changing all along her journey, and you will see the evolution of her state of mind through her answers. Finally, they will help to understand the emotion of Maya at the moment, and how she will grow up to become more and more independent.
Like we said, dialogues are a big part of our game, and we want to ensure a good readability of them as well as a good comprehension of Maya's emotion. To do so, we choose the typography size, while the subtitles, we display the speakers' names for the players to keep track. We made the choice to show Maya's emotion through three aspects: the bubble's color, the bubble's shape, and their placement in the space. It will help to ensure essential information is conveyed by multiple sources.
But how dialogues actually work? So once the crosshair is close enough to the parents, the camera is soft locked to focus on the dialogue and the crosshair becomes a cursor. And when it stays long enough on an answer, it is selected and the others disappear so that Maya can say the according line. This soft lock can be easily turned off by looking far enough away from the center of the screen. The rift is full of dangerous-looking caves, but some areas are very quiet and reassuring. The goal of these zones is to allow you, the player, to rest for a while. You will be able to entertain yourself with what we call mini stories, that are small breaks with a different gameplay. They allow Maya to confront her fears, and will allow you to experience a new narrative-oriented gameplay, very different from the rest of the game. In the full game, a little dozen of mini-stories will be implemented, tackling different subjects. Here is an example of the first mini-story as seen in the game. It takes place on a rock wall where you embody a small chalk character that Maya drew with a piece of chalk. And as you choose to collect some items, you create a little story by choosing the character, the location, and finally, the opponent to defeat. No matter what you choose, this story will still revolve around the same idea. Maya is learning to deal with her fear of the dark.
The vertical slice that we are currently working on will be about 1/8 of the entire game. It starts at the very beginning of Act 1, when Maya has just fallen to the rift, and ends around the middle of this act with a rather tense cliffhanger. During the vertical slice, we will follow Maya as she falls into the rift and the discovery of this underground world. It is divided in 6 very short zones, each of those corresponding to an area on Maya's journey, from the hole she fell into to the igloo where the end of slice cliffhanger takes place. You can see a representation of Maya's stress level during an adventure. When the line goes up, she starts panicking, and when it goes down, she is more calm and relaxed. It's in those quieter moments that she will play with her mini-stories. You can also see at the bottom when the dads will be present, depending on the chapters, and where the silhouette will appear. We chose this part of the game for the slice to be able to introduce players to the game progressively, to showcase a wide range of situations, and to propose an interesting bit of the scenario where Maya goes through a lot. This is the whole map of the vertical slice as seen from above. You can see the 6th zone of Maya's journey with a variety of scale and shapes. Here is a view of the same map, but as seen from the side, showing you the verticality of some of our areas. Once Maya is going deeper in the rift, she will start to lose the contact with her parents.
We will walk you through Maya's journey, while showing the different zones and the level art already done within each. The first zone is the hole. It is the area where Maya will fall and wake up. It is a rocky place with a reddish and brownish tone. We can see the opening which she fell from, as well as a dark tunnel which she will go through to reach the shaft. The shaft is the second zone, and it has a similar feeling to the hole, except that it's much more open. We can see a nice rock formation going on, with a lot of light that goes through inside. When Maya goes through the shaft, she will reach the path. It is a very small closed zone. It is really scary with pointy rocks. However, the next zone is the glade. Contrasting to the path, it's an open area with a lot of light searing through. It's green with plenty of moss and plants around. It's really calm with a waterfall and a small path she has to go through to reach the descent. The descent is frightening, and so it became a huge chasm with sharp rocks dressing its walls. It's very creepy, and like its name, is a long descent deeper and deeper into the rift, with a strong, fantastic feeling to it. Finally, the place coming right after is the igloo, meant to comfort her. It is a small spherical place that provides a feeling of security and calm. It's icy and cold, but provides a strong magical feeling with it.
So, you had a look on our vertical slice, and now I'm going to tell you a bit about the production of the whole game. So, we will need another month of pre-production to finalize our vertical slice, to recruit the necessary people and to plan the production in detail. Then we have 12 months of production with 2 milestones, alpha at the halfway point and beta at the end. And the objective is to leave ourselves a long period of iteration, particularly in terms of narration and with the mini-stories, so that the player's immersion is successful. Then we will keep 4 months of closing to make the console porting and the submission of the game in gold version. And so at the moment we still have 17 months to develop the game, with a need for 250 person months. If we estimate the average cost per person at 4,500 euros, we arrive at an estimated development cost of just over 1,100,000 euros. And now let's talk about marketing and about our business plan. So we have 2 target audiences for our game. Firstly, our core players, which are narrative game lovers, who like to feel immersed in a story and to imagine another reality. And secondly, a wider audience with casual players who love games with easy controls, and possibly parents who are not necessarily players, but curious and make efforts to discover the medium of video games as a new way of telling stories. And by analyzing the large market of narrative games, the way they are sold, and also the feedback from players, we identified 2 axes that seemed relevant to position our game. So firstly, the pace of the game, and secondly, its replayability. And about sales and distribution, we are thinking of going from the premium model and selling the game for around 15 euros. We found this price by looking at competing games and also via a survey of our core players. And also we target publishers who enjoy and publish narrative games such as Xbox Game Studio, Annapurna Interactive, Arte or Plugin Digital. And with this selling price, we would need to reach 5,625,000 euros in turnover to be viable. And this is equivalent to a minimum of 350,000 units to be sold. And this was the second presentation of Along the Rift. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So who wants to start with the questions or reactions? I'm just looking also online. Yes.
Hi, so I'm Cécile. I used to be a video games journalist, and now I work in the scouting acquisition department for Focus Entertainment. So thank you for this presentation. It's nice to see that the game already has evolved in the concepts, and I would have loved to hear a bit more about the silhouettes and the gameplay related to it.
Yes, so there is not much gameplay related to the silhouettes. In fact, it's only like a figure that appears in front of Maya. Sometimes it will like block her path for a limited time, but there is not like a specific action to perform when the silhouette appears. You know, it's more of like it's more a story-driven mechanic, I think, and visual feedback, and interesting visual feedback more than a very like gameplay-focused mechanic.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jaime from UTAD, University of Spain. I also agree with Cecile, with Cecile that it would have been great to see a bit of gameplay. Also in the trailer that you have developed, we have seen that you have developed a really good story and you have focused a lot in the narrative part of the game. And it's amazing, and what the story that you're going to tell is going to be great. But at the same time, as we are talking about video games, we need to know how it's going to be played. And this is also, for example, with the controls. You said, the controls are going to be simple. That's great from the accessibility point of view. You're going to use the joysticks. But at the same time, you also said that for some things that I'm not clear for what kind of things, you're also going to use buttons for some of the mechanics. I don't remember which ones. And that's a really important thing to balance. If you're just going to use the joystick or the buttons, when are you going to use both of them? If you can maybe use the joysticks in those parts. And also, to talk about the interface, maybe you can think about integrate the text that appears sometimes that are the fears of Maya, to maybe integrate them with the rocks, or I don't know, to be more part of the environment. And at the same time, just an idea, will you be able to change the size of the font, of the bubbles, of the thoughts, of the dialogues? And also not just rely, sorry.
Yes, there are like 4 different questions I can answer you right now, but if you had more questions on that, maybe I will forget some of those. So maybe I can just start to answer to those questions and then you can add more.
I completely agree, sorry.
Okay, thanks. So, first question was, I think it was about the gameplay, that we didn't show much gameplay in the slides. So, in fact, the teaser that we showed at the very beginning is the actual beginning of the game as it is. It's like we just recorded the very first part of the game and that's it. And also, every single GIF that you've seen in this presentation was taken directly from the game's engine, and its situation it will appear just like that in the actual game. So, we can't show you much more than that because much of the dialogue is not yet integrated, and yes, and the mini games need a little, the mini stories need a little more adjusting before that. But yes, most of the stuff that you actually seen in the slides was actual gameplay. So for the second question now.
Then just said, use it. If you have more thing about the gameplay, use it.
Yeah.
Because that's a really important thing. The second question was about the controls.
Yes.
I think it was.
I can also answer that if. Okay, so our focus is still to use only the 2 joysticks as controls, but we realized during our different playtests that we had in the last presentation that some players, especially players that play a lot of video games, have the instinct of like pressing buttons to select stuff, or for performing jumps, stuff like that. And so we decided to keep the 2 joysticks as our main input, but to also add every other input from the controller as an additional layer of input, so that when players have the instinct to jump pressing the A button, it just works, you know, because we don't have any issues with players playing the game a little different from what we wanted to, you know. So that's our goal.
Hello, nice work. Javier from the chat also. As we keep on going in accessibility and you mark accessibility as one of your main issues, I noticed you still have one of the slides with environments just in red and green. You have 2 main environments with color blindness, accessibility issues. In the same sense, you said you control all your game with joysticks, and you mark one of your main targets in Steam users. So they need a pad also, not just the keyboard. So just think about it, for a while, okay? Anyway, nice work, you have improved it and it's going better.
So there was also some other question that I had to answer before. So yes, of course, we can change the font of the bubble. It's something that we think about from the very beginning with our UX designers. And I think there was something else also. And the what?
The size? The shapes, okay, the shapes of the bubbles. Okay. I will come back with the mic. Sorry for the people online. It's for the people online. I'm sorry for that.
You're right, absolutely right. Yeah, we were talking about the shape of the bubbles. But at the same time, you did a nice work making them with different shapes.
Okay.
As long as the color is not very different and the lighting is not very different between them. Remember, light and shape before color and texture.
Yeah.
Okay?
I will give the mic to the people online. Alexandre?
Yeah, it's better with the mic on. Hello, I'm Alexandre, lead art at Ubisoft. So I agree with what have been said before, especially on the text interaction. I would just wanted to say that I'm pretty glad that you proving a good understanding of shape, language, and color to convey the emotional states of crap. I forgot her name. Yes, thank you. Of Maya through the cave. Like the shape, the intention of the shape is pretty strong. Still, in the I'm online and I've got like pipe compression and stuff, but the modeling of the rocks and the environment feels a bit soft. And you're even if you're stylized, like I feel that the environment is not really like hostile or really like uncomfortable. Everything looks pretty like comfy, even the pointy rocks and stuff like that. So I would love to see like some like artistic polish. I know you have like a huge zone to create, like from the slide of your level. We didn't see the scale of Maya in it, but I'm pretty sure she's pretty small in it. I know you have a huge part, but try to think a little bit about like polishing those edges. Try to make your game look crisp a little bit, and not like as generic stylized thingy. Just an advice.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good advice, honestly. We're still kind of working in progress when it comes to the level art, and even with the level art, there's still a few environment props to be done. For example, for the shaft, there's still a rock formation we have to create, and we're also still working on the descent, which will have to be pointy, and as well as the path. And so we still have a few work in progress to work on, and it's definitely not going to be completely soft.
Yeah, thinks a lot about like the readability of the shapes. Try to support it with contrast and lighting. It's
Yes.
not just about like the texture and the brush strokes in the material. It's about like what my colleagues see before, like shapes first.
Yeah,
and light.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm happy that you're in progress. I will use some advice for the last presentation because I think you have no more time to change your game. So you should focus on what you will present the last time. So I wrote a lot of things that you will receive. I think that the last discussion was very important. You have to show how you create emotion. You have to show it, not only to explain, to show how you create really fear through the demonstration in the vertical styles. And also you had some recommendation about bubble character. You should distinguish what you will implement in the whole game and what you decide to put in the vertical styles. There is a lot of technical options which are important for the whole game, but you don't have time to implement it for the next month. So be careful And my only question, it's also a recommendation, you give a very raw presentation of the budget. Probably you could be more in details. And in particular, you have to show how you include marketing in the budget. And also the marketing part, you should work on how you create the community around your game, as you have several steps. Probably you need a crowdfunding campaign, not to get money, but to increase the community, and how you manage this evolution of the marketing. It's just a set of recommendations.
Okay, thank you for advice. Yeah, we will improve it.
Thank you. There's another question.
Hello, so Milan, I'm doing marketing and communication for indies. One first remark would be about the art. You were talking about distorted environment and like unrealistic one, and I think it's really, I can really see it in the artwork, but when it's come to in-games, I didn't see any unrealistic or distorted environment, which is kind of sad because I think it's totally relevant to give emotion as you are a little girl living a super scary situation. So I think maybe there is some work to do on this part. And also I'm a little bit afraid of, like, you have a narrative game and the players really needs to be in the story, and you have a lot of things who will take you out of the immersion, like the words about the fear and emotion, the UI to choose dialogue, the dialogue text also, which means like really a lot of non-really in-game items. And I'm a little bit afraid it will be too much to really go into the story. One really good reference for me is What Remains of Edith Finch, because they managed to take all the dialogue inside the environment. So maybe I think you have some work to do on this one. And I'm not a huge fan of the dialogue UI because I really think it's too big and not really integrated into the game. So, yeah.
About the distorted places, it's we have shown only like images of the level art that will have distorted kind of feeling to it, and so it doesn't really show yet how it's gonna be fully at the end. We still have a lot of work to do yet to finish it, and so I really hope like by the end you will see like how everything will be.
Yeah, and to answer to the dialogue UI, it was all part of the intention because the purpose was to put the player in the skin of a 10 years old girl, you know, and to show how a kid can feel about the dilemmas between the parents. Like sometimes you have to choose one parent, like to be mature or to be just you have to be a kid. Or, like 10 years old, it's a period of transition, and dialogues was a way to show that through like 3 different states of Maya's mind. And the shapes are representing these 3 states. So, yeah, I understand totally, but it was the intention at the beginning, and we decided to keep that.
And I would also like to add that since the GIF that you can see in the presentation, the interface changed a bit thanks to the region of our playtest from Minna and Clara. And so since then, the colors of the answer are not that saturated, and they are a bit translucent to fit more into the background of the game. So it's not as flashy as it is in the presentation.
Yes, it's becoming really amazing. I think without changing what you are doing, just the riff and things like this, you could shape a little bit the dramaturgy, because I'm feeling, as for example, the first voice when she falls, she says, "Oh, okay, I'm okay." Is studio voice. It has to be, you have to feel that it's humid, she fall. It's not pathos, it's drama. She fell. So she's, I think you have also to think about the role of the kid with the parents. She's doing an initiatic trip in that. She's learning how to grow. She's discovering a world, and she's not so scared. The parents are scared. We have to settle that. So parents are panicking. No pathos, they are panicking. Maybe they are learning how to be parents, but she's learning how to grow. And we have to feel that. So when she falls, is not saying, oh, I'm okay, and she's in a studio, a sound studio. She fell. She maybe hurts a little bit, but her role, many kids do that. They are the parents of their parents, and this is her role. Parents are chaotic. They have maybe, we don't know, it's a secondary story, but her role is not to make the parents panicking, because she's discovering something. And this is, I think, this is the core of your play. And it's just about voice, about sound, and about how we can imagine this double scene, how parents can imagine the horror thing and how she is living it. And this is your game. I think is a gap, imaginary gap between parents and kid. So and as Stéphane said, is how create emotion. So and the other thing that can help and is train yourself not to read, but become a teller. You have a fantastic text, but we feel that you're reading, and that puts the emotion we are feeling in a much more business thing. And we are not in business, we are in a drama. Not pathos, but drama. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. And concerning the voices, like the acting itself, for the parents, we didn't struggle a lot because we had a lot of participants for casting the voices and propositions, so we were able to choose among a wide variety of different voices and actors playing and stuff like that. But when it came to Maya, we didn't have much choices because it's pretty hard to hire a little girl, like, which is not an adult woman actually, to just voice a child character. And so we struggled a bit to find one, and we only had one choice. So we're doing with what we have, and we will ask her for some retakes, but the time is like kind of catching back on us, and so we won't be able to do as many retakes as perhaps we wanted to, and there's the budget, and there are many constraints that makes that we cannot have the perfect acting for Maya, but for some situations it can be still improved because the voices are yet to be integrated into the engine. And concerning the how they sound actually, because in the teaser, as the dialogues are not integrated into the game yet, we needed to make a fake teaser just by adding the voices on top of it. And so I made it in a rush, and I didn't take time to just treat the voices how they should be treated to sound like she was really falling inside a rift, and with the whole reverb of the place and stuff. So I understand your concern about that, but it's only for the teaser that it's like that. It's not going to stay like that.
Thank you. We have a question online. Felix?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the presentation. My name is Felix Dreyfus. I'm an independent producer. I just wanted to point out, I felt there were two dissonances in your presentation. The first one, you start by showing artworks which show a very almost very fantastical way that she will see her world in the game. But then when you show actual gameplay graphics, it's much more grounded and much more realistic. So I think there's a point there where you should be careful to make sure that either this fits together in the presentation, or you mentioned that it will go much closer to the artworks, or that the artworks were just looking for style and not really fit to what you're doing in the game. And the second point I wanted to have you have an eye on is also the budget of your game. because for now, I mean, at least from what I felt from what I hear in the presentation, it's very much a walking simulator in terms of gameplay. And I don't think you will ever find a publisher who will spend €1 million on a walking simulator. So there, you either have to rethink your gameplay and add elements that would make it more interesting, or rethink your budget and cut it at least in half.
About the first comment, we will definitely be working on this. Thank you very much for the advice.
And yeah, okay, thanks for the advice about the budget. But I'm curious to have the explanation, if you have time after, to come into the workspace. Oh, oh yeah, it was online, sorry. Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Hello, Lowy, associate producer at Asobo. First of all, very good presentation. We are happy to see, being able to see more about your gameplay. It's good, and also the ambience, the music, all along the presentation make us in a good mood. I have various questions. The first one. It's during the video, the trailer at the beginning, we saw some band-aid on Maya's leg. And I don't know if you already think about this, but it could be a simple way to add a kind of customization part in your game. I mean, I don't know if during the story Maya will fall several times, but it could be a moment where the player can choose not a dialogue, but more which band-aid I will put on Maya's leg or something. It could add a small piece of customization part. I don't know if you already think about this or not.
So no, we didn't think about customizing the band-aid on Maya, but the idea was in the entire game to show her body, because we can see her hands and her feet and her legs, maybe evolving a bit throughout her journey. As she becomes more and more assured, and maybe she can also hurt herself at some moment. So it was the idea, and it was Doryan who added the dinosaurs band-aid, and it was a very good input. I think it was very well.
Okay. Also, at several moments in your game, Maya will be able to make some choices. I don't know if it will be always 3 choices or 4, whatever. But are you thinking about important moment where Maya will not be able to make a choice? I mean, the player will see several choices, but it will be impossible with the cursor to choose some of the choices. It could be an interesting way to surprise the player. I don't know.
Okay, so no, there won't be always 3 answers. Our intention was to have a very organic interface. So sometimes we only have 2 answers, sometimes we have more than 3 answers, for instance. And we also have the colors to indicate the emotion and the thematics of the answer of Maya. But we can play with that because, for instance, we have several choices where they are all in the same colors, you know. So we have various ways of playing with that, yes.
Okay, and last one, we will see the silhouette at the final presentation or not?
Yes, definitely, you will see it.
Cool.
Normally. And yeah, for the non-answer, it was an idea actually at the beginning of the production to allow the player to quit the conversation, to choose to quit the conversation because she begin more and more independent and want to cut the link with the parents. And to play with that, but we're gonna see if we have time to implement that features in the game. But yeah, it was an intention at the beginning to play with the non-answer.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think we're going to finish there. So thank you and congrats to all the team. And while the next team is coming to settle, so let's welcome Detective. I'll give the mic for some words from Indira.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again. This is Indira. So just a few words to thank our Spanish colleagues from UTAD, Centro de Arte Digital, the best video game school in Spain. Why I am thanking them? Because they have brought, once again, some lovely gifts to our master's degree students. So the very first time, last month, they got this Fallout Nuka-Cola cups. And this time, they'll get these wonderful keys, which I believe symbolize the transition from one stage to another of a video game, or the transition from the first project's presentation to the second one. So many thanks for this. And to the students, help yourself. Okay. So maybe you can take this, and then I'll put this over there. Okay.
So congrats once again for the first group, and maybe let's welcome once again Detective, so we can leave them. So Detective, whenever you're ready.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. Where do crows go when they want to drink a beer? Obviously in a crow bar, but in reality they don't. Birds don't go into bars, drinking and talking like people, right? Or do they? Well, today let's look into that. I'm Clement, game and narrative designer, and welcome to Detective. It's a game about 3 ducks under a trench coat, and they solve mysteries, basically. It's an infiltration investigation game for PC, and you have to conduct this investigation in this quite surprising disguise. It's a game with a funny story and quirky controls, and the main point of the game is the balance between, well, this these quirky controls that we're going to talk about, and this fulfilling investigation. We want the player to feel like a true detective and make their own conclusion, not being guided by the game. All that while following an intricate and comedic story. This game takes place in a world where humans are, well, humans, like in our world, and birds are birds, like in our world, so it's not surprising at that point. But birds have a hidden society from humans. They can communicate between each other. They are intelligent and sentient, and they have bird pubs, crow bars. This secret must remain a secret. If they break the secret, it's life-threatening to them, because if the humans are afraid of birds and decide to fight them, well, they win because they have hands and birds don't. And for the first time, something threatens the secret. For the first time, a bird killed a human. Leah is going to talk about this a little more.
Yeah, so for the first time in history, a bird has killed a human, so this threatened the secret. And that's why the Chief Pelicano, the chief officer of the bird police, gather a unique team to solve this case. So let's meet our team. So this is our 3 ducks and how they will be stacked under the trench coat. So the head is Becky. It's a journalist, an investigation journalist. The middle duck will be Barry, an old detective. And the feet of our fake detective will be Buck, just a rookie. So they each have their own personality and experiences. And they will all have their own voice. With it will be gibberish, but it will be distinct for each ducks. So now I'm sure you want to see how they would look like in game. So I would let Santiago, our car designer, talk about his great work.
Hello, so I'm Santiago, character designer for the project. What I wanted to achieve for the looks of the characters on the game was a cartoonish vibe for the like stylization of the faces and anthropomorphization of them to give them like specific features and distinguish each bird from each other. And well, look on that kind of silly and comedic aspect of the game, right? Inspired by old cartoons and such, like Donald Duck, Daffy Duck, etc. For the human, well, silly faces, really simple, make them look weak and dumb and, well, not smart and such. And then, yeah, that's it. There's the audio.
Yeah, for the audio, all the characters will have their own vocal identity with different emotions, angry, neutral, etc. And it's audio gibberish dialogues. And also all the characters, and especially the ducks, are different sounds of duck's pile sounds identity with webbed feet sounds and claws and trench coat sounds too.
This is a quick render for the main character. Well, you can see the 3 ducks on top of each other and, well, just standing there. Now we will, Solène, our environment designer, will show us her work about the world and the environment on Detective.
Hello. So about the artistic direction of the environment, we had 2 main intentions. First one was to have a cartoonish look. And second one was to have a kind of dramatic mood. So to achieve that, we were inspired a lot by Sam and Max. So we have very cartoonish shapes and with a lot of kind of broken lines and shapes. And we also have a really strong light effect to reinforce the drama of the game. So here is a quick render of the first level of the game. So about the texture, it's something which is PBR and there is some roughness. So this is a neighborhood that used to be safe and feel safe, but it's also now a crime scene, and so the neighborhood is very anxious about it now.
And yeah, for the audio parts of the environments, we have different street ambience and also music. So we have jazz music styles who evolve with different clues found by the player. When, for example, the player finds one clue, different layers of the music will be added to give the music more complete, and it's also a reward for the players. And for the ambience, we have a street ambience at night with also different crickets, distant barking dogs, etc., to give more loneliness feeling in the mood ambiances.
So, I will describe your experience as a ducks. So, you can, with your disguise, move around the human world without being noticed. You will have to find clues and gather them to solve the mystery. When you find a clue, you can choose to review it as one of the ducks. Each ducks has, as I say, different experiences and different personalities. So sometimes they will give you an interesting information about the object or something, sometimes not. And it will help you eventually in the hypothesis phase we will talk about a little bit later. It's because before that, you will have to gather all the clues without tripping. Your ducks are kind of clumsy because they are stuck under a trench coat and they are ducks. So you can easily lose balance because of collision or walking upstairs or anything. Thank you. And if you start losing your balance and fall, it will be dramatic for your ducks. Because if you start tripping in front of humans, they will get suspicious that you are in fact ducks and not a human detective. And if you fall in front of them, then you will have to restart the level and try new strategies to get to the clues. So, if you succeed to collect all the clues without being spotted by human, you will enter the hypothesis phase.
Now we talked about this hypothesis system where we want the player to make their own conclusions alone and not being guided by the game. How does it work? Well, in each level, you have one question or two that you have to answer. It's the chief wanting to know something about the crime. So in this case, it's what happened to Annie the Canary. You have this little inventory of clues, and you can create hypotheses. An hypothesis is the link between two clues, two elements. So you take two elements and that makes an hypothesis. So for example, Annie the Canary has been attacked by an unknown suspect. But you might say, well, there's infinite possibilities of combining clues, right? Some of them won't make sense. Well, we took account for that, and the game won't let you make hypotheses that make no sense. Let's give a quick example. Now, this hypothesis, do you think it makes sense or it doesn't make sense? Yeah, right, reality makes sense, I'm not crazy. This doesn't make sense, right. Okay, well, let's try something else. This one, well, I guess it makes sense grammatically, but no, it's not possible. This one, I'd say, well, you could say in a metaphorical sense that it works, but no, this one is just plain wrong. Okay, this one is true, but it's nothing to do. Okay, this one makes sense. The canary has been attacked by an unknown suspect. Now that we have an hypothesis, we have to provide evidence to turn it into a conclusion. So here the proof will be one of the three. We only have one proof, but you can put multiple. So it can be black feathers, a cage, or bloody yellow feathers. I'm not saying this to sound British. They literally have blood on it. Let's see how our current vertical slice plays. Like that's the actual game for now. Let's see how it is.
So your experience playing the vertical slice will be this one. So you will start by the crime scene. So it takes place rather at the beginning of the game, and it's here in purpose to expose what will be the story. So you will start with a little balancing challenge just to remind you how to get your balance right. But at this point, no human can see you, so it's not very dangerous. And it allows us to put here a dialogue between ducks to tell you that from now you can be seen, so you have to be careful. And also to introduce the personality of each duck.
you will meet the human detective. It's an important character because you will see him again in the story later. And I think you are his new colleague. And for now, it's a placeholder with a guy with a yellow jacket, but let's assume that Rozec is also in disguise. You will have a new balancing challenge to enter the investigation scene, and then you can start to find the clues. So some clues are kind of easy to get because you can just move around the environment, and when you find them, you can pick them, review them, as we talked earlier. But some clues are a little bit more hard to get because they are hidden, or maybe they cannot be reached, so you will have to find a way to get them. And once you have all these clues, you can start making your hypothesis, as we talked earlier. And if one of your hypotheses answers the Chef Pelicano question, you will have a little call with him, and it will send you in the next level. So the next level will be the victim's apartment. First, you came here thinking you could questioning his pet canary, but when you enter the apartment, you realize that something happened here, and there is no canary inside. So you will have to investigate. But this time, sometimes you are alone in the apartment because your colleague detective is not here, is downstairs doing detective stuff, whatever. But when he's here in the apartment, you cannot hide from him. So it's kind of dangerous, and the space is very narrow, so it's full of danger for ducks. This second level offers new challenges about balance, but also an investigation that is a little bit more complex than the first one, because if you don't analyze right the clues, you can get on the wrong tracks for the next level. So that will be the player experience for the vertical slice. And talking about player experience, let's talk about UX.
Hello, I'm Noé, and I'm mainly responsible for UX and UR on Detective. And you know, when you need to solve a case, you need to be at least a bit data-driven. So let's talk about the investigation systems that we had. So we wanted the players to have the ability to create their own hypotheses, to create their own conclusions, but the system shouldn't be too hard to use and too annoying. So we designed two systems. One, the A, that was very open. Basically, you had like a big puzzle, and you had all the pieces that you had to put together. And the B system that was way simpler, way more linear, and with a bit less possibilities. So we had two groups of testers. They tested A and B in different orders. And in the end, what we found was that the A was indeed way too complex. Like, the enigma was supposed to be simple, and the limit we put was 10 minutes. 75% of the players took more than 10 minutes with the system A, while everyone who did the B system took less than 10 minutes. And when you look at usability, system A clearly had a problem. And but the other conclusion that we had, more qualitative, was that the A system was way more interesting and way more. You had way more incentive to think about it, and it was done even by the players who struggled with it. Can we jump to the other slide? Perfect. So here are the data. If you look on the left, you can see it's a box plot. So the bottom line is the minimum. The other line is 75%. The other line 50%, 25%, the maximum. It's great because you can see general tendencies, but you also can see particular cases. So you see, the first time the players who see the system A the first time, they took a lot of time. They took way too much time. But the people who already did the system B and see the system A just after, they don't struggle. So it's really that the system makes it hard to understand how to solve the enigma, but when you know how to solve the enigma, you don't struggle with the system. We know it, and when speaking with the people and observing how they play, we know that it's because it's way too overwhelming. There are way too much stuff, they are lost, they are confused. And when you look at usability, so the single usability metric, you take a lot of usability measures, you standardize them all, you standardize them by person, by type of metric, and in the end, you just have one big number. Above 50 is good, under 50 is bad. Simple as that. And you see that the system A, it's tough. It's not as good as we would like it to be. So our choice was, we change the system A, we make some kind of mix between the two, and we restrain some possibilities, especially with the sentences, so that the players are way less confused. And then we have to aim a target. We want to aim to a mid-core audience, people who already know a bit of investigation games or puzzle games, but pretty much any age. And when we had to define our targets, we wanted to have players that like excitement, that want a bit of challenge. We wanted players that like a strong story as well. Really, the main point is the story with interesting mechanics. So when we used the Quantic Foundry model, we found that the two archetypes that were the most fitting were the hero. He likes mainly being the protagonist of a story. He likes being involved in the drama around him, but he's still interested in good mechanics. And then the acrobat architect, he likes planning, he likes challenge by the mechanics or challenge with more intellectual, but he also cares about narration. It's not a challenge only for the challenge. How do we know who are these players? Well, we ask them what games they play, if they play them often, if they like them. But we also use a GRT, a game recognition test. It's basically, I give them a list of names of games. Some of them are real games, some of them are completely false, completely invented, or film names and all. And they have to pick if these games exist or not. And then with a little bit of stats, you give them a score. And it's highly correlated with performance. So I think it's very good metric to know if these players are knowledgeable about this kind of games or not. And now I can see my notes, so I forgot my transition. But now I'm leaving to Pierre, who will talk you about a bit more about marketing.
Thank you, Noé. So we identified a few competitors on the market according to the genre, the scope, the level of complexity, and the amount of content we plan to have in the game. The market appears to be quite small, which means it will be with a few competitors, but we have a segment in which we can stand out. And according to the fact that there is a slowly growing audience for the investigation genre, the market is totally suitable for an investment. Using those informations, we were able to have an idea on how to make the game and finance it. So to make this game, we should have 13 birds for 16 months, composed, as you see, of a manager, 2 programmers, 4 artists, 1 sound designer, 1 UX designer, and 3 game designers. And this allow us to make the game for a cost a bit less of €1 million euro. Now that we know how much it costs, let's have a look on how much we can expect to have from such a game. If we have a look on the results of our competitors on the market, we can reasonably expect to have a range of audience between 50,000 people to up to 1 million if the game is a great success. And depending on how the marketing goes and a lot of other factors, we think that we should set the median price at 10 because it's what competitors are doing right now, which is globally the case. In case of failure, the risk is only to only retrieve a part of the initial investment, and if we reach at least our intermediary expectations, we can bet on a return of investment of 1.5x. If the game is a success, of course, a lot more. And now I think it's time to wrap up.
Haha. Yes, let's wrap up. So you've seen lots of what we made for this game. To get back to what I was saying in the beginning, the core of this game, you understood it boils down to the chemistry between the quirky controls and the investigation system that allows the player to feel like a true detective and to feel like they're not guided by the game, like they are doing the work and not the game does it for them. Now, let's get back to the beginning of all this. Like, we've talked about the game, about the story, but why would birds care that we killed a human? Well, that a bird killed a human. They are birds, they shouldn't care, right? Well, it's really simple. It's because in the bird world, wouldn't you know it's illegal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're going to start with the questions and comments. I see a question online. Alexandre?
Hello. Great presentation again. You still have your like humor and quirky settings and quirky presentation. It feels nice. It's really refreshing. So thank you about it and for the good moment. Just a few words to the art team. For what I saw of the render of your game, it feels that you understood a little bit like the contrast expected from, let's say, a noir setting and stuff. But I feel that in the architecture and the shape language of the world and the texture maybe as well, you forgot a little bit your cartoonish, let's say, intentions and aspirations, and it feels a bit too straight. I know you have like some exaggerated shapes in the like shape of the door and the windows and such, but everything feels very straight and not that crazy. Like I'm not saying like going like a full distorted by faking a fisheye in the shapes and stuff like this, but maybe a little bit like bend the straightness of the wall of the sidewalk and stuff like this. I think it will give like more personality to your game environment. It's not like a huge trick to do, but it will bring a lot of like dynamism into like the render and maybe give your game a bit more like visual identity. I know that you're inspired from like Sam and Max, and like it's cool to like get inspired, but like see what inspired them, whether it's like noir movies or like cartoon stuff, and see how you can like take your own interpretation of those topics instead of like citing them. So yeah, like I want to see a bit more like craziness into the shapes. I think it could be like beneficial, and it's not like a huge effort for like the months to come. So I can hear you.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you for the advice. I totally get what you mean. I think this is maybe this is mainly because of the sidewalk, because I did it at the beginning of the project when I wasn't really how to say it. I didn't have this not straight line stuff in mind, and so yeah, it's very very straight, and I think it's what is killing it the more, and maybe some low wall and stuff like that. But yes, thank you.
Like be very like free yourself. You have like a free setting of a cartoonic like style and stuff. It shows a little bit in the characters, this craziness, but like be like, I don't know, like look at old cartoons and check out their environment and the lines the wall takes. Like it's completely crazy. Not going that crazy, you can just find your balance in it. So
Thank you.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Odile, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, well, it's more a remark. I think the beginning was good of the presentation, but I missed a positioning sentence that tells me exactly what it is. You know, one or maximum two sentences, actually one sentence, because then I would have grasped exactly. So I had kind of an idea, but if you put your positioning sentence at the very beginning, it's easier. I think you did a nice work on the target group, and it would be interesting to speak about also the games they like, these people, and to put it so, because then it's very easy to understand who you're going to target. If you speak about investment and you say the market is big, then I need to see a couple of figures on this, how much figures have sold the competitors, so that I can relate to your findings that it's big enough. And finally, maybe it's because we are online, the spreadsheet at the end, it was not readable. So maybe it's just because of the bad quality of the connection, but I couldn't see anything on the figures and what you were explaining. So that's a pity.
Yes, having figures is planned, and it will come, but. I will try to find a way to make the spreadsheet a bit more sexy. Just a question of time. And so yeah, I agree. Thank you.
My comments are almost the same than Odile one. Of course, it's not the final presentation. So, but remember that the final presentation, you have a short time to convince an investor to put your money on your game. So you have to show that you are making an interesting game, that you have all the knowledge, and you have a very short time to do that. My comment, for example, for the sound, don't talk too much about horns, make heard. I had the same comment for the preceding. You have too many people presenting, and you are presenting probably too much things, too much technical things. Of course, the demo is missing. When you will have the demo, it will change correctly. But for example, the presentation on the UX UI at the end, you should prove that you are able to make interesting testing and play test, and that you have done some, but don't spend too much time on it. It's just a technical point who show your ability to do something. And I had the same remark about the budget. I didn't understood what was. I am not far, and I don't have problem with the video system, but I did not understand exactly the hypothesis and what you were showing. And clearly, maybe I missed in your presentation, but I don't know exactly which platform, what price, and exactly for who you are making the game. This is clear, but why you are choosing. For example, you can make your game on a smartphone or a PC, and maybe you can start on a smartphone and move to the PC on the other side. Your strategy, your marketing and development strategy should be much clearer. And remember that you have a short time to do that.
Thank you, Stéphane. So I see online, Leonard, you have a question or comment?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, absolutely. Good. Thank you very much. I love it. It was great. I have two questions. One very short. When you told me about the budget, was that only internal development, or did you factor in licenses, marketing, outsourcing, everything else?
Yes, for the budget, it was only internal development. I didn't put the budget cost on all the things that are supposed to be on the publisher side.
Okay. And the other question is more on the gameplay side. You explained that the fact that you have 3 ducks mean that for each clue, you are able to pick which duck is going to review the clue. My question was, is that an exclusive choice? Can you only review the clue with only 1 duck? And if not, if you can review with all duck all the time, why would you not?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We thought that we can review it as much time as we want, so you can try to do it with the tree bird. Because sometimes they say things that are interesting, but sometimes no. It's also some characterization of the bird. It's also help us for that. And it's also help us to not put too much dialogue every time we find a clue. So if you find a clue and just want to pick it, you pick it. If you want to have more information about it, you can use one of the duck or even the tree duck if you want. We thought it in that way.
And I'd like to add that we thought about whether we should let the player examine the clues as much as they want or only once. We have one main problem with that. It's that we are an investigation game and that we can't really withdraw information from the player. So we're really in the middle ground, and we thought it's better to do it that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oui, yes. So you are doing fantastic progress. I love the scene, which colors are really. Yes, you work with the colors and in such of a contradiction which works. So you do this Hollywood blue and teal, orange and teal. I'm sorry, and then you have these lights coming from the inside that are completely different. So you are showing at every moment that there is a double thing going on, and I suggest to go deep into that because it's about an imposter. You see your main character is a duck, having a costume of a duck, but trying to be a man. We understand this, so you can go really into the. And you have a cold humor. It's not a Bugs Bunny humor. It's kind of cold and a little bit like let's say British. So I think the imposture has to be assumed completely. And your character is assuming he's imposter, but in the game, it's not for me. It's not clear, and you can break chronological things because you can do it because it's about imposter, and you're playing also with this. It's illegal. If you translate in French, it can be caramba, je suis découvert. They are or voler dans les plumes. You can translate it in English. It can be hilarious. So we know it's a kind of French mixed game. You can go into the English and become surrealistic. Surrealistic is a artistic code word, but I think you can go farther into that humor. Don't be afraid of that. Because it's cold humor, but the cold humor, you do it and then you just go back, a little bit. But the damage is done, and this is fantastic in your theme. I don't know if I was clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. You have a question or a remark?
Yeah, just a comment. First of all, I really love this idea. Big fan of Sam and Max, so very excited to see something in that space happening. Just a very small detail about your target group. You mentioned an age group, and you start at 10, and then you go upwards. And you have to be very careful there because making games for 10-year-olds is very, very different to making game for adults. I guess you got this from like the cartoons and Pixar movies, which are like for the whole family. But if you create gameplay for kids, it will be very boring for adults. And if you create gameplay for adults, it will be too complicated for kids. At least that's on my knowledge. I haven't made games for kids for a while. So just be careful to not make your target group age-wise too broad. Maybe don't mention the age. You don't have to.
Thank you for your insights. I think it's 100% true. You're 100% right. I did not develop this part as much as I should have. Indeed, we want the game to be enjoyable for 10 years old, eventually with at least understandable humor, fun mechanics, funny looking, but it's clear that it's not aimed to mainly 10 years old. It's really our bottom limit. We think that it could be a great introduction. It could be very great if 10 years old look an older brother or an older sister playing the game. That's how we see it. Maybe I should be more. I should add more explanations when I say these numbers. But very good insights. So Stefan is asking me, do we know the age of the players of our competitors? Yes, and we are mainly in this range. Like if you take Untitled Goose Games, it's not mainly played by 10 years old, but it's enjoyable by 10 years old because of the humor, because of the scene, and some very experienced 10 years old with video games could play Untitled Goose Game. It's an example.
Well, hi, I'm from Spain, Utah, and what I want to say is congratulations. Your game has evolved a lot. You have focused a lot on gameplay, on the gameplay part of the game, and also on the challenge, on the puzzles that the player must face in order to be able to complete the level. And at the same time, looking at the design of your vertical slice, first of all, congratulations also in the first part of it, the tutorial part of the mechanic. I think that's a really good idea, and it could be really important for the players that play for the first time your game. But at the same time, for the vertical slice, one tip of advice, don't be afraid to make the puzzle too difficult at first. Better to make the puzzle too difficult than to not be able to make a game really challenging for your players. But at the same time, the vertical slice is for that, to just try to see the potential of your game. So try to challenge yourselves, and don't be afraid of that, because I really look forward to look the final product of your vertical slice. And just a quick reminder about a question that have been asked about if you can review the hint with every single duck. At least try to make not repetitive for the player. Like, you need to press a button, a little animation, like a thumb, the voice of one of the ducks, then you need to press again another button, again another zoom with the voice of other duck. I think that's like the main thing. Don't make the review of the clues repetitive for the players, because that could be painful. But again, above all else, good work, really good work.
Thank you. Raphael, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, Raphael, I'm sound designer at Ubisoft. I had a question about the sound design. So in your game, you have two really strong ideas. You have the film noir idea and the comic / humor part of the game. So my question was, for the sound design, what's your audio direction? Are you going full comic / cartoonish, or are you taking some ideas from the film noir direction? I know that the voice of the ducks will be really cartoonish, but what about the animation, etc.?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. Yeah, for the sounds, we want especially sound design, realistic sound design, with little funniest way in the sound. For example, when the ducks are unbalanced, we want music who evolves between for example, the unbalanced curve, and also we want to add some SFX more funny with, for example, a different bubble, and add more delay to give a more unbalanced way. And yeah, for the main environments, we want sound design realistic, but we put the funniest way with especially the audio gibberish for the voice of the characters.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Cesar from Asobo Studio. So I had a question, is when you say you can move to the next level without having the right hypothesis, so I'm wondering how that works. Like, so do you have to go back when you realize you're wrong? Do you backtrack? Or you can finish the game with the wrong answer and then at the end you realize you put the wrong person in a bird jail? Or I don't know. So what's the plan for that?
So you mean when you have found the conclusion, right?
No, you said when you go to the apartment, you can realize you didn't get the right hypothesis. Like you weren't correct, but you can still progress to the next level.
Okay. We had a lot of debates about this and ideas and stuff. This question precisely because we wanted to make the game so that the player can be wrong. The main idea is that if the hypothesis makes sense and has the evidence, then you can continue. So we implemented it in the vertical slice. It poses more questions for the bigger scale, like what happens in the story. We have a few ideas, but nothing that we stopped. But in the vertical slice, you can finish the game by saying, in this case, it's this bird made the murder. That's the first hypothesis that you can create. And then you notice that some feathers were in fact painted black. And so it's not that bad, it's under one. So for now, you can be wrong. On the bigger scale, we don't know what happens.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So you can finish the game when you're wrong. That's okay. And just an advice is when you were talking about the two mechanics, when one wasn't really working and the other one was too easy. I think the one that's not probably working for beginners is more interesting if you have a good introduction for it and you polish it a lot. Probably it's probably more interesting even for vertical slice, like you said. Thank you.
Thanks for the presentation. I really like your concept, and from the beginning we quickly realized that you have the spirit of the game you want to make, so that's a very important point. But your presentation is very dynamic, but at various moments we lose this dynamism. For example, some slides you're displaying are too full in one shot. I mean, you will win in dynamism and you will keep your audience interested into your concept by showing your important element step by step. And for example, I don't know if it's the same for other people, but the UX part, you're sharing very interesting stuff, very interesting process. You made very good work on this part of the project, but we don't really know what you really want to share because it's, for me it's too full in one shot. So I can't follow you very clearly, and that's bad because I'm sure you made a really good job. And yes, we already talked about this, but for the production part, yes, for the next one, keep the artistic direction of the project to show your metrics, show your production cost and stuff. That's it.
I'm keeping it short. Thank you so much. And yes, you're right. I try to find the balance between interesting and too much information. I think for the next presentation, it will be more very little insights at some points and short.
Maybe if you keep the same amount of information, but by showing all of these species step by step, it would work. But
okay, so
try to find a different way to explain your work.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think, Alexandre, you will have the final remark or question online.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to to get in feedbacks again. I wanted to give a few feedbacks to the character development people, whether it's the artist and or the animator. I don't know if that's the same person, or the FX artist as well. Currently, like the character itself improved a lot in its modelization. Like the render was pretty cool. The animations of it still feel like very unpolished. And I think you could use a bit of support from some FXs as well in order to understand how like the character is reacting to like the stress or its environment and stuff like this. Like maybe it could like lose some feathers, or having like some like cartoony FX, like you're in a cartoon, like let's say art direction. So you can have like spinning stars over your head. You can have this kind of stuff, like it's allowed. Yeah, like so for now it feels really unpolished, and I think a lot of your character development is going to be in its animation, because like cartoon is all about animation. It's not just about like quirky dialogues, which are fun, but think about how you could improve like the feeling of your character and how it's developing as well in the animation, in FX, etc. All right.
All right, thank you. For now, the animations you see on the presentations are placeholder, like it's a quick model and a quick rig made for, well, to start developing and giving an idea for the prototype that we are working now. So they are not intended to be final. Like in the end, I'm currently working on a better rig with more complex systems and such. And yeah, thank you for the recommendation about particles such as fairs or stars when he's either falling down or walking around. That's a pretty good idea. I will take it into account. Thank you.
Thank you for all the questions and comments, and let's congrats once again the team. And while I will give you also the keys from our partners in Madrid, let's welcome the next and the last team of this morning, Project Link.
were right. Our over-exploitation of the planet is backfiring. A creature, like the one from 8 years ago, has broken into the complex, and it is destroying everything. It's chasing Inforium. That substance was vital to this planet, damn it. But it's strange. It seems even more enraged at the SH synthetics. It's because of their body heat. And the presence of the filters. I'm sure of it. This combination would arouse in it an instinct of vengeance or animal rivalry. What have we done?
Welcome to the presentation of the link, the second presentation. So for your information, we kept the name of the project as it represented best our intentions. So first of all, know that, like last time, we are extremely honored to have so many professionals and to present the project in front of you. So we hope that we will enjoy the show. So we now begin to introduce the game identity and basically the base of the project. So the year is 2233. Project Corporation monopolized the exploitation of a new resource, the Inforium, discovered on the exoplanet Vili for the manufacturing of its human synthetics. And as the wildlife becomes hostile to the mining, a creature breaks into the facility. So it's a first-person horror experience on PC in solo player, and the whole game will be ranging from 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. So about the references and targets, of course, we kept the base design as you saw last time, so of most of our references, so like stealth gameplay, high tension and atmospheres, and emphasis on story and narration. And so a player base which would be in search of unique horror experience and like an immersive journey of a few hours. So about the game experience, I will quickly remind you that it's in a science fiction setup, in a scientific complex, and with a predatory creature chasing you, of course. So we put the emphasis on several intentions, so the feeling of vulnerability and loneliness, the choices and sacrifice-oriented mechanics, and terrific and dreadful environments, and all design pillar, which drive us all along the project, which are building a distinctive identity in our genre, so verticality, sacrifice, etc. A deepness in scenery making and writing, supported by graphic design and sound design, of course, and a solidness in the world coherence, supported by the art science approach.
So, as introduced earlier, the story takes place on a new planet. It's planet Vili, the terroric planet number 183, within the complex of Protect. So, this facility is a site for the extraction, the analysis, and experimentations of Inforium. The game environment, in a photorealistic and hard science artistic direction, reflects the DNA of the company, from the very practical layout of the room and their dressing. This environment is a way also to tell the story, like the disorder of those places, showing the passage of the creature. You will also find the presence of written and audio dialogue, like the one you heard at the beginning of this presentation, to understand what is happening or has happened, and the one who is about to discover those events is her.
There's too much darkness. It's not safe.
So, she belongs to the last generation of synthetics, and since 2225 they are fully functional. This model is named SH1 for Human Synthetic Number 1 because she's the first success of this third generation of synthetics. She's born from the hybridization of liquid Inforium and a human, but a human still in the embryonic stage, so yes. It's inside the womb of a pregnant woman that the operation takes place. But even if the properties of the substance allow her to have abilities beyond humanity, Inforium is actually quite harmful to her body. So her kind requires the creation of filters that you can see here. And the way she removes her filters is also a way to express her personality. She does not hesitate to sacrifice herself for a company. And finally, even she's not very talkative, because she usually talks only to reply to her superiors, her voice might become more emotional as she gets more aware of her human nature.
So as we are talking about SH1, we decided to implement a briefing system that will allow in a diegetic manner to provide a feedback about the ill status of our character and add to its believability, and to create tension in the player, as this indicates that the character may not be too far from death. And that would look like this. So this seek for realism and tension growth is also transmitted through the atmosphere of the game. Most of sounds are aiming for a natural aesthetic in order to immerse the player in a world that could be his or her. We sound natural thanks to the real-time recompositing of sounds like character follies and ambient sounds like room tones, soft and unlocalized cracklings coming from the complex. Then some props in the level are emitting sounds like neons, ventilations, computing servers, and that would be how a neon sounds. Around more other props. So the dramatizations for its part is linked to the level of tension in the character's mind. The evolution of the character's psyche is materialized by the growing tension in the ambience. We also use a hybrid atonal and dissonant audio, blending together sound design and musical elements to add a final layer of dramatization that will, we hope, raise the player fear, and use those as gameplay clues, allowing to inform the player that something is happening, or at least make him believe he's informed and play with his or her expectations. Finally, the change of perspective is used to make the player feel different sensations during progression, changing from a noisy environment to something really quiet to attract attention. And as you see now, as there is no sound anymore, you're all asking what's happening. We can also transition from a reverberant environment to a very dry one to make players feel cramped, anxious, and tense. I'm sorry, we don't hear it really well on the speakers here. And on the contrary, we can change the reverberation from very dry to wide, making now the player feel hopeless and lonely.
So, the unknown creature that managed to enter the facility is a real danger for SH1. This monster usually lives in the depth of the planet. Therefore, it is blind and its skin is highly sensitive to light. We will also understand later in the game that it is attracted to the inforium. And as if it was not enough, it has 8 legs and can detect its prey using vibrations. So in the end, as you can see here, we want to evolve that and create some kind of translucent shader of the creature in order to exacerbate its gruesomeness.
What the?
So what tools does this creature have? Well, it can walk on the floor and on the ceiling, and has the powerful echolocation. The echolocation is made of humanly hearable sound waves, and to be protected from it, SH1 will be able to use an AI system to detect the waves. And last but not least, we wanted to show you some example of our recent advances, especially on the rigging and animation. You've seen in the previous slides a few of the character animations, and one of the biggest challenge is animating the creature, since we are working on giving it a proper personality.
Okay, so next about the tools of survival. So in face of such a predator, Anya has several options, which you already see on the last presentation. So swappable items, toxicity filters, hololink, and all of this is linked with the toxicity bar because all of that mechanics were created around the facts of using the sacrifice as a main theme. So about the throwable items, they light up the environment, temporarily repel the creature away, and are only usable on the spot. So here you can see an animation of the flares when you trigger them. So the different props like flares or flashbang may not have the same exact effects, but they all have the main point of repelling temporarily the creature. So about now the toxicity filters. She is using filters developed by Protect in order to have the inforium, so the powerful substance extracted from the planet, running into a vein. So because the inforium is usually not fit to be replacing blood, like Meili said before, it's kind of a problem to have them missing, so it better not happens. And you can see here how the models of the arms have been made in order to reflect the body hour we want in the game. And so if 3 filters are not maintained at the same time, toxicity starts to accumulate. But how is she gonna lose these filters? Well, you already know the answer, but it's because you want to sacrifice a filter to attract the creature. And so here you can see the base system and the animation of how you are gonna remove them one by one. And so these filters have the capability to attract the creature. I will come back on that later. So here you can, there is the technical problem we are expecting. The GIFs are not playing on this PC, so we are gonna repeat the presentation at the end if you want to see the GIFs. So here you should see the creature being attracted by the filters. So because of the many returns of the last time pointed the difficulty in balancing such the system of the toxicity, we considered changing it. So we'll still need a playtest to confirm that. But the overall reception of the system. But since the last time we designed a new system, which is the system on the right here, you have the base system on the left. And so it's a more basic system with 3 filters, each filter representing 30%, and when you have a filter missing, the toxicity bar starts progressing to the next filter. So as you know here, the hololink is the last tool of the main character. So it can display all the UI, so like the throwing curves, toxicity, and items location. Same problem here for the GIFs, I'm sorry. And you can see also sound waves and set spots during echolocation. We'll show that later. And so our first system is still valid. So as you can see here, but like I said, if playtests prove us the contrary, we'll use the second system. And so with this second system, the hololink has the different settings, which function usually on battery. So when the battery is depleted, and if you can't find more anymore, basically the hololink usage will like as you can see, move all the filters bars all the way up to the right, and it's something you could not clear really easily. It's some sort of special load you put on your filters. And so because doing that would imply putting batteries and all of that kind of things inside the level design, it's something which will increase the scope of the project. But if we do that in the vertical slice, because the vertical slice is quite short, it's not necessary to put this kind of battery, and we can just put the base battery with the player at the beginning of the vertical slice.
So for the story of the whole game, this is how we tend to tell it. This graph represents the dramatic tension through the 4 acts and the prologue of the story. And now beyond the game. So in terms of user research, first user test allowed us to evaluate our controls, a first level design and its narration. Players found that it was standard FPS controls and controls were only a few actions, so it was easy to take the game in hand. But we have to make some changes to avoid the mistakes that could make the player with the execution of the filters and clear up the uncertainties about controls we saw during playtest. So for these points, we will next put a lot of attention on our unbundling plan and on the signs and feedbacks of the entire game. We also launched a survey a few weeks ago to have more information about ways of playing, especially in horror games, and to know how people could act faced to danger of death with our main pillar, which is the sacrifice. You can see here that in horror games, a majority of participants is ready to make sacrifices to avoid death. When we ask them to sort the types of sacrifices they are more likely to do, the first one is a sacrifice of an object, the second one is the sacrifice of their own safety, and the last one, the sacrifice of someone else. These results match the gameplay intentions and the level design intentions, sorry. Moreover, people tend to agree with the sentence, having objects to defend yourself decreases notably the sensation of stress or fear. So if they are more ready to sacrifice an object, while this object allows them not to be scared, we can expect an increase of the fear feeling when these sacrifices are made. We made a huge progress in terms of accessibility. Features of control mapping, font size options, and deaf people-oriented audio systems are now implemented in the project. Plans for the rest of the production with accessibility is the implementation of subtitles and captions for all audio logs in the game, and the work on contrast with lightings and colors is also taken into account in the level out process.
For our marketing plan, we try to define our target player who would buy or enjoy our game. So thrill-seeking player looking for a terrifying experience, and also streamers and YouTubers looking for more horror content. As for our marketing, horror is still a niche and smaller segment of player, but we can also reach more player with streamable game that can be highly popular content. For the marketing positioning, we did a benchmark on several games to analyze our segment of market and game horror player consume that might be near our experience. As you can see, our game is located on higher level of fear and narrative and mechanic equilibrium next to Amnesia, Outlast, and Alien Isolation. We estimated the evolution of our studio staffing for the full game over 24 months game production and estimated the duration of the development stages. So as you can see, over 24 months, we never go over 30 max people for the studio, and we have a vertical slice of 4 months, which is what we are doing right now, a pre-production of 4 months, 16 months of production, and 4 months of post-production. It's a quick overview of our estimated roadmap for the 24 production, taking into account already made assets in advance. As you can see, we are starting with the Act 3, which has a lot of assets and concept already done for the vertical slice. We also have, as you can see at the bottom, we have near the launch a period of early access for streamers and influencers that can actually stream the game before it is launched to get more visibility. For our budget and revenue, we estimated the production and cost for what our game could be according to the standards and genre of our own ambition. So price range is 30 to 40. We have an estimated production cost of 1.2 million, adding a 600K for the marketing and publishing cost. We also have an estimated number of copies sold of 1 million and a break-even point at 200,000 copies. You can see the ROE at the bottom, so we can be largely with a lot of revenue. For a project this big, we hope to sign up with an editor who could help us in many regards. Getting a publisher like Focus Home Interactive, we can help finance the project, communicate with influencers and special websites, marketing advice, and also help the launch and early access. We also have several communication ideas for our game, like releasing our game in October, near the Halloween season, early access for influencers and press, and also Twitch streamer early streaming before, like 1-2 weeks before the launch of the game, to get more visibility. For our vertical slice, we wanted to get the attention of the player and providing a condensed experience of the game and leave them wanting more of the experience.
So now to end this presentation, we want to show our work on the vertical slice. It's a condensed version of the Act 3 in terms of walkthrough and revelations. This graph represents our will to use the narrative structure of the whole game to offer a similar emotional experience. It is divided into 4 phases: an onboarding phase with tutorial, a long gameplay phase with the creature, a phase of revelations more focused on atmosphere and staging, and finally a twist ending. And here you have all the key moments of this vertical slice. So it's taking place in this part of the complex. Here is a top view of the vertical slice, not however that it's still a work in progress. And we're currently working on a quick mission flow taking place in the second zone. So if you want to discuss more about the walkthrough and how it works, we can discuss it later on the Plateau project. So thank you very much, and this is the team working on the link.
Thank you. So who wants to start with questions or comments? I see online Alexandre. Alexandre, I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Crap. Hello again. Thank you. Sorry about that. So once again, I wanted to congratulate you about the work that you've done. It looks like the quality is pretty high. You had pretty good system and really good technical achievement. Though I'm missing a bit in the presentation, the environmental storytelling of your game. Huge part of a terror or fear game is about like the fear that you create with like the environments, the setting, the story you tell of the people that was there before, that were maybe killed by the creature or not, or that flees, or I don't know. It's a huge part of the terror aspect of the game. I'm kind of missing it in the presentation. I'm missing like the sci-fi as well. Like except like the filter in the arms, I didn't see much sci-fi. I wanted to see like some like design, like maybe industrial design about like the mining station of the resources that you have in your game. You know, like these things are really important. Like, so I really hope that we'll show it like next time. And I just want to give you a warning about your scope. You saw it. You show it at the end. There are like something like 5 encounter with the creature, or like 5 key moments or something like this. I don't know how much scripting you want into that, and I don't know how much animation you want into that. But these things cost a lot of time to be done like really properly. Since you're doing a realistic game, every detail will show a lot. So just be very aware of this. If you want to convey fear, maybe it's better not to show anything sometimes, to make like the best quality you can in like some really key moments. So again, congratulations for your work, but so be very careful of the coming months, because like it's not a lot of time to create like high quality standard. So, but great work again.
So if it's okay for the team, I can answer about the environmental storytelling. So yeah, it's currently a work in progress. We already have a narrative map. So the layout you saw on the presentation is without all those information, but yeah, we worked on some scenes, some key elements within the level, like a bloody scene with in which experimentations could have happened. So we can't show it now, but surely it will be for the next presentation.
Are you exploring any kind of like verticality in your vertical slice?
Yeah, a bit. In the second area, it's just a top view, so you can't see it, but in the Plateau project, maybe we will be able to show it. But yeah, we have some rooms that are upstairs, but with glass and a view on lower rooms, so we can see a big place with the creature maybe falling, or just we can see it appeared, but we are upstairs to create this moment of verticality. And at the end of the game also we have a really big room with verticality.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, so Cécile from Focus Entertainment, since we have changed our brand name. I had some piece of advice on pitching. I think you are trying to cram too much information in this, and the result is that sometimes you go way too fast on some key features, and on the contrary, sometimes you spend way too much time on some elements that are important, but that are supporting elements. And beware too with the hierarchy of the information. For instance, you told us about the tools of survival. We see some maps of the scientific complex in which we are evolving. After you spend a lot of time on sound design, which is great, you did an amazing job on that part, but it's not the right order. Since sound is going to support the atmosphere in which I am going to do stuff, I need to know what stuff I am going to do before hearing about the supporting part. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but thank you. And I think you already did progress since last time, but you need to keep refining this. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to. No. So, Raphaël, I think you have a question as well, or a comment.
Yes. So, Raphaël, a sound designer at Ubisoft. Again, a really cool presentation. I had a question on the breathing system that you want to implement. So, breathing system has been proven in many games to be hard to implement. So I wanted to have a little bit more information on that. So is your breathing system scripted or systemic? What I mean by that is, will we have breathing all the time that is modulated by environmental stuff? Or will we have breathing only on scripted moments that we want to emphasize on?
Well, it's supposed to be all the time. Of course, we won't hear breathing like every second of the game, but it's related to the level of stress of the character, and also on if the character is near an enemy or not. So there is like 3 stages. The first stage is like if the enemy is here but far. The second one is if the enemy is here and really near us, and we want to keep it the more quiet possible. And the third part is divided between if you are healthy or not when there is no enemy. So, and everything is linked to game parameters for the stress level of the character, which is rising or not at some moments. And I guess that's it.
Okay. All right. Just to finish on that, don't hesitate to play with this bracing system by scripting it a little bit at some moment to fake, to trick the player to think that something is going to happen, but it's not happening at all. It has been made in the first Resident Evil to not on the bracing system, but on the music. They trick the player with the music to think that there is danger, but there is not. And on the contrary, having no music and something happen. So you can play with that. And just to finish on that, there is a lot on documentation made by Bo Antonio Jimenez, which is a sound designer at Naughty Dog, which implemented the breathing system of The Last of Us 2, which is the gold standard in the breathing system. I'm not saying you should implement that as is because it's really, really complex, but there is a lot of really good ideas that you can take to see what they did in this game.
Well, it's a good reference point, and I'll go to check it out right away after the presentation.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, hi. I'm from Spain, Utah. First of all, I think that I thought that I will never have to say this, but amazing sound design. But where is the visual part of it? There are so many sounds and not so many pictures to try to see both parts of it. And it's the first time that have ever happened to me. So for that part, congratulations, because it's really hard to make a really good sound design. And in your case, it looks like it's going to be amazing. So from that part, congratulations. Also, from the point that you said that you are not going to put the battery hololink mechanic in the vertical slice, I think that it could be even the main objective of the vertical slice, and it could be interesting to play with the toxicity and the battery, and that you should take into account different variables in your gameplay to try to survive. Also, really good analysis that you have made about what is people able to or willing to sacrifice. And even I thought that from the setting that you explained, you are the only one in that base, but if there are more humans, maybe you can sacrifice them. Sometimes that's even funny. Well, sorry for that, but you see that maybe not being always yourself to sacrifice, maybe could also ease a bit of the pain that the player is going to experience, or maybe face a dilemma that is going to experience that the player and face different consequences, that always having to take something from you, or that kind of animation. Also, I just have a question that I think that it was explained better in the previous presentation, but what does the monster want? What does he really want? Then the captions for the logs, really important, really important. I even wanted to say that for the first audio that you started your presentation with, it could have been really great. And think about the drop system for Twitch for that part of the campaign, because right now they are using, a lot of games are using the drop system, and I think that it could be really cool. And for both of you that are taking notes, really good thing. That's really important in presentations.
Thank you. Thanks for the advice as well. So next.
Hello. Is amazing. But I was thinking about something. I was questioning myself when you were talking about sacrifice. Is how to dosify this, because sometimes we say horror, terror. What's the difference? So I found something I will send you by mail also. Maybe it's useful for you, because when you say the sacrifice is very important, face to fear, horror, or terror. So let me develop this very shortly. So in the vertical slice, maybe it could be interesting to make the difference between fear, terror, and horror. I think there is a vertical level. And I found terror is the intense fear. Intense fear we feel in anticipation of something happening. So terror is when we feel something before it arrives. So we imagine something. Terror can be called fear which is taken raw. not cooked. And horror is the disgust we feel when something we feared actually happens. Horror can be known as digested fear. So there is raw fear and digested fear. Is the difference between terror and horror. And in the sacrifice, I wanted to ask also, normally we sacrifice an object, then our own safety, and then someone else. And we begin with a scapegoat before sacrificing ourselves or somebody very, very beloved. So I think these levels in a vertical slice can make us not understand, because yes, maybe I need to understand how we get to horror and not suddenly boo and feeling horror, you know. I think horror is much more intellectual than terror. Is the deepest level of fear and terror. So I think your game can be very interesting in the vertical slice to make us go down to that. Okay, I send you this text because I was needing it to understand what is terror for you and what is horror. I think horror is the worst thing, but we have to have also a vertical level to feel it, to, let's say, enjoy it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Aida. To complete your point of view, in the first presentation, I think I talked about that, about the tools we have in user research, and we used a scale of levels of fear adapted to horror games. And these levels, there are 10, and horror is a ninth. Sorry. The 10 one is panic, and fear is 7 and 8. Low fear and high fear, 7 and 8. And before that, we have stress on 5 and 6. And anxiety, thanks you. Anxiety in 2, 3, and 4. Low anxiety, medium anxiety, and high anxiety, and calmness in number 1. So we plan to use that. We know we don't have much time to think about all the vertical size with this, but it's a tool that we have since the beginning, and I hope we will use that a lot. Thank you.
Hello, so Milan doing marketing communication for indies. My first remark will be about game design, because you say like it's a stealth game and I didn't see any gameplay. Like, can we move? Can we hide? Can we stop moving to be sure like the creature stop changing us? And I really miss that part actually. So yeah, and the second part would be about marketing. Your cost like $35, $40 is really high for Hindi, so you need to be really, really good to be able to just have positive feedback on this price. And also 1 million units sold, it's a lot. Like even games like The Medium, who were critically acclaimed by Bluebird Team, so really famous studio for horror game, I'm not sure The Medium sold 1 million units. So I really think all of these marketing data are not really like relatable, like if you compare to the actual markets. It can happen, but it will be just an anomaly and not normal sales. So yeah, you have to take that in consideration, I think. But yeah, great work, and the sound is really, really nice, and I still like the creatures.
To answer about the game design first, you will have to be quick to see that, because like there is a problem with the GIF, so it's only repeating a few times, and after that it bugs. So yeah, like the stealth gameplay should have been conveyed by these GIFs. So there is this. No, not this one. Yeah, this one. Like here you can see after you throw filters, the creature moves around, and if you don't move because the creature is actually blind and only relies on sound, if you don't move, like it can pretty much not detect you if you only do some small actions. And the filters have the highest priority in the AI to attract the creature. So it's basically like I said in this presentation, the last, like it's the like because it needs a sacrifice, it's the higher cost, but the higher value of the items you could use. And then the second thing is about, yeah, here. So here you can see that the HoloLink is actually displaying the curves, like I said, and the sounds. So it's the sound waves of the items knocking. And I wasn't fast enough, so I have to reset the presentation. But that's basically, the second thing is the waves of sound like the one you just saw, but which are the one you make when you're walking, for example. And so if you have the HoloLink activated, you can see what the creator actually can see when walking. Like you can see, and she's running on me, and I'm dead. But that's basically the thing. And the range of the sounds and how you produce these sounds is changing between like the 3 different states of crouching, walking normally, and sprinting. So yeah, and the items produce sounds like you can see. That's it. So that's the main stealth point in the game. I hope I answered well.
Hi. For the marketing part, I just wanted to remind that it's still estimated numbers. For the budget, I have. J'ai besoin dans les bonus. We have in the bonus some charts I can show you. Just to say that I calculated according to what we need in terms of workforce, and then we extrapolate the number. We extrapolate in terms of numbers with the wages to see how much we need to pay people for a certain amount of time. So this is the staffing, what I did. It's a very big chart, I know. It's to see over 24 months, how many people we need according to what specialty we need and when we need them in production. And then I took the numbers and I crunched them to salary per month. And it crunches according to several salaries. So this is minimum wage. This is and certain like wages according to how much I can pay my the team. And then I did some estimated according to all the results with several sales and to see how much revenue I can get and how much it would cost me to pay more people. So I also had other horror game sales, so I didn't get the budget for all of them because they are pretty secretive about that. I didn't get all of them. But also get that the copies sold, except for Outlast, is pretty much in the same around. I do remind that Soma was a very big hit. It was not expected to be 1 million, but it still got to 1 million. And I think it's still highball, and I'm gonna refine the numbers, but I think we can get, with the ambition of our project, to a lot of copies sold. Still, we get to our break-even point at 2,100 copies. So even if we don't get to 1 million, we still get to rentabilize the game. I don't know if that answers your question.
Anyhow, you can keep discussing that later on. We still have a few questions. Stéphane?
It's not a question, it's a comment. And as I said, it's a comment about the next presentation. So first, it's a very good presentation. I like it very much, and it was a big change. I can tell it, not convinced at all at your first presentation. I think you made great progress. So it's only a few things. At the beginning of the presentation, you show some intention. We want to make a very terrible game. Skip this. Show that it's a very terrible game and don't talk about your intention. The voice on the black, I don't know if you want to keep the voice on the black screen at the beginning, but the voice is not, and the whole script is not terrific, sufficiently terrific. There should be something more anxious. I don't know. It's both probably the people the actor who talked, but even the text there is something, I don't know. You should find something which is more anxious. The sound, I disagree on the fact that you have too much sound demo. The sound demo is up to now really the place where you understand how you will create, I don't know if it's terror or horror or fear, but how you will create anxiety, though I like very much the sound demo. In counter, and do you intend to have 3D sounds? Yes, okay. And the game design, where explanation of the game design is very difficult to understand. In particular, the system of filters, you have to find something which is more understandable. And the last but not least is your vertical slice has to be convincing. And I know it's very difficult. You are working in something where you have a lot of technical, graphical, and thing to do to make a convincing vertical slice. So my advice is making eventually short and convincing, then a big one with showing a lot of features. The features you will develop it in the game. You have to show that somebody who is playing this game is in a horror, and make something, analyze how your production in the last month and see how you can optimize with even a very short but very convincing version.
Just quickly about the game design, indeed, the presentation wasn't as clear as I could have been, because I was kind of disturbed, to be fair, about the technical issues, but it will definitely be clearer and a bit reworked at the end and the next presentation, of course.
César from Asobo Studio. So good presentation. The pictures and the video was really cool. It was cool to see something move in engine. So the complex sound system seems very interesting for immersion, because it's probably the biggest thing to have for immersion is sound more than pictures. But I'm interested in the thing you talked about deaf people, like doing a sound system for deaf people. That sounds kind of counterintuitive. But is it something you actually have plans for? Like, how do you plan on doing this? I'm interested.
It's already in the game. It's like for half deaf people. We can switch the sound from stereo to mono in order to allow a better hearing in general. Also, we can change the equalizations of the sound if someone has less hearing in high frequencies or low frequencies or mid frequencies. And also, we implemented a system that can change the loudness of the audio experience depending of the system you are hearing the sound on. So if it's speakers, if it's a helmet or anything, we can change it on the menu.
Okay, so it's not like visual things to represent sound for actually deaf people, not like semi-deaf.
Yes, there is also there is the visualizations of the sound thanks to the HoloLink, of course, but for all the speaking things, we have subtitles, and we can activate it.
Okay, and closed caption, I guess. Yeah. One other thing, maybe, but it's still the HoloLink. I still don't quite understand all the things around the HoloLink, but we already had this discussion last time. I guess it changed a bit, but not quite enough for us to understand. Well, for me at least. I don't know about the others. Him also. But otherwise, thank you. It's a good presentation.
Thank you very much.
Once again, the demo and maybe the discussion there with what they have and they couldn't put in the presentation could be useful for this illustration. I just wanted to ask Adrien if you do have a question because you had, and maybe it was answered or you had a comment, just to make sure.
Just because we were a little bit out of time, but I'll be quick. I just wanted to say that I was a little bit struggling during the presentation to get back all the piece of the puzzle from things that I heard from the last presentation that I don't really remember actually, and I don't know really what changed between those two presentations. And so, yeah, today the presentation relied a lot on what you said earlier, and I just wanted to remind you to avoid that for the last presentation, because some people maybe just never heard of your game and you just cannot rely on previous discussion. So yeah, that was my advice.
I totally agree with the last sentence, and it's for all the teams. You present to somebody who was not supposed to know anything about your game at the beginning. This is very important. My remark was about the comments about the price and the money you need to make your game. You have to make an hypothesis. If you are an independent starting studio, you will find nobody to put 1 million or 1.5 million 500 euro on your game, even if you think it will be the greatest success, because you cannot, it's not feasible due to the actual position of the market. But of course, if you are already a big studio, Quantic Dream, Ubisoft, you will find somebody even internally to put 1,500,000 euro on your game. If so, when you show not your budget but your financing, how you see the financing system, you should make an hypothesis of what you are. Are you representing as a starting indie studio, or are you a part in the company showing to the decider you should make this game? It's totally different.
Yeah, about the numbers, I know they're really high, but we can still like adapt them. It's not like written in stones. It's barely an estimation according to workforce, so it's still going to be like equilibrated by like less workforce, or maybe longer production time. And we have some ways to get it to be cheaper. But we wanted to see if this number could be like it would see what you all think of this number and what we could do to improve it. And for the price range, we estimated a bit about the a questionnaire with yes, a bit of a questionnaire about some player what would be ready to pay for a game, and we also like insisted on the starting price for horror genre in our like sector, and also we are convinced that if we do a very high quality vertical slice, we can get an editor to support us. We will do anything to get that.
I know that there is not. You are not supposed to show a financing plan, but it's important that you have some project which seems to be very interesting and never get out, even if you have a cost analysis which is credible, because you are in a situation where you are not able to make the. So the question about how much it costs by itself is related to how many copies you can sell at what price. But before, you need to find the financing, somebody who puts the money to make the game.
Thank you very much. About that, we are waiting on the plateau projet. I can show everyone the tools I use to calculate this price, and we can see if it can be approved with your advice.
Yes, thank you so much for all the comments and recommendations and questions and for the whole exchange. Sorry for the delay this morning, and we will start again at 2:30. But before, let's congrats once again the team. And thank you to all of you online and here, and so see you at 2:30. Thanks.